Situated on this incredibly busy road in the center of Vinnytsia, between the center and the train station of Vinnytsia, we find ourselves today at Vinnytsia Central Market, still functioning despite the fact that this city has had a few upgrades over the years. A lot of central malls, a lot of very expensive malls, but the local population still get buses to and from the entrance of the Central Market, and they head into the Central Market, see what they can buy, see if there are any bargains. And as it's Christmas, people will be buying Christmas trees, as you see. People will be buying Christmas decorations, as we see. Let us head in. Right now, there's a sort of a yellow zone mandate going on, which basically means they've reduced the masks. You can wear them if you feel like wearing them. So you'll find it's sort of half and half right now in Ukraine. Although even when it was full, you'd never see 100% uptake when it came to the masks. But let's go and have a look inside this market and see what we see. And usually, like a lot of markets in Eastern Europe, the markets are sort of laid out in a sort of fashion where you get the meats and you get the fish. You might remember my video from Riga, Europe's biggest market. Remember that everything was sort of set out. A good place to come if you need a good price for meats, a good place to come if you need your fish, your meats. But I think this is the meat section, so let's have a look. As you can see, this market probably was built back in the Soviet days. Well, not probably, was built back in the Soviet days. Butcher cutting up his pieces of meat. Not a place for vegetarians, has to be added, but you know, it is a place if you want some decent meat. What I'm going to do is I think we can get the stairs up to the top here. We're going to have a look. Gives you a bit of perspective on this place. A sort of pigeon eye view. There's a pigeon. This is the view that the pigeons get. This is the meat section. It seems at the top here we have sweets. We have a lot of mobile phone shops. The second-hand mobile phone shops. If you're in the market for a second-hand mobile phone, this is probably the place to come if you're in Vinnytsia. Certainly very different from what you see downstairs with all the meat. Definitely not as lively up here, is it? A bit of a perspective. I was thinking that it was we're going to see some vegetables. I think if we head back, so we're just coming through the main entrance, I think if we follow these babushkas into the back area, we're going to find all the more interesting food, the spices, the fruits and veg. At least that's what I hope. I don't think any of us want to be looking at the mobile phones. Well, welcome to another one of my videos. I'm Alex and I'm the Wandering Englishman. If you haven't checked out my channel before, I have over 50 videos about Ukraine, so check out the Ukrainian playlist. Some are better than others, but some I think you might find very useful if you enjoy this sort of content. Also, if you can give this a like, that would really, really help me out. So I haven't actually done a real detailed video on Vinnytsia, despite the fact that I've been here numerous times. I've not done the sort of 24 hours in Vinnytsia. I think this is possibly the reason. I think when you've seen a place, you're less inclined to sort of do those big epic videos. You might remember my video from Kropnietsky or Kremenchuk or Odessa. But here, see if we can start to find some healthy food. As much as I love a bit of honey, there's a bit of honey there. We really need some fruit and vegetables today. So Vinnytsia was a city that was founded in the 14th century. And I think the name comes from vino, and it's no relation to the word vino, as in the French vino. It's not related to wine. It comes from the sort of Slavic, which basically means bride price. Bride price basically means this area was sold to the king of Lithuania at the time in the 14th century. hence it gets its name, Vinnytsia. Gotta be careful on these steps. Icy, slippy. Certainly put a few of Babushka's hips out over the years, I'm sure. This is certainly not the glamorous side of Ukraine which most tourists will see in, for example, Kyiv. This is like the markets that you remember we saw in Kyiv, like the markets we pretty much see in most major cities. It's almost, they have the parts where you can buy your underpants, you can buy your leggings, you can buy your handbags. Everything all under one corrugated iron rooftop. A big thank you to the members of this channel, those members who have joined via YouTube and also subscribed to our Patreon, Ko-fi, you name it. Without you guys, this would be a lot harder to produce and a lot harder to make, so I really appreciate your help. A little bit congested. We finally found some spices. Well, mainly instant coffee, to be honest. I can hear some birds. Does this mean there's a pet shop? Yeah. A little bit like in Morocco, you can pretty much buy anything in these types of markets, from bunny rabbits to gerbils to little birds. Yeah, no comment. You've probably seen my videos on Morocco when it comes to the selling of animals. I won't repeat myself here. But I always get a few looks off camera. The camera might be pointing one way. At the end of the day, you are invading people's privacy, but you are in a public space, so you know. My kind of shot, you get the flat caps there. So they wear a lot of flat caps in this part of the world, just like in England. It's a little bit cold. We've got to cover the ears at the moment. It's about it's been about -1 most days recently. But it truly is a bit of an immense. But like all these places, it's always big markets. But if you want cheaper wares, the old camera section. Yeah, so right now you'll find if you go into, well, when there was a red zone, if you go into the shops, people were being asked for their vaccine passports. I haven't seen that recently since we moved to the yellow zone. I believe they're no longer necessary, but at the same time, the advantage these outdoor markets have, the local population doesn't need to show their Chicom social credit pass. Instead, they're free to go about their business, they're free to purchase whatever they need, and they're free to live how it is. I mean, right now in Germany, all the shops are shut. I mean, that's how crazy things have become. Let's see, I think we get to the end of this. Yeah, so that's the end of the market. It's a block. It's a huge, pretty big block. As you can see, apart from the very, very center of Vinnytsia, Vinnytsia is not one of the prettiest cities in Ukraine. It has many grey buildings. I mean, it obviously looks nicer in the summer, but in the winter, it's one of these places that, unless you're right in the very center and you're around the sort of main 2 squares or so, there's like an independent square and there's a beautiful square with more war memorials, you're not going to come away with a sort of like, wow, that's a beautiful city type impression, where many cities in Ukraine have their moments. Vinnytsia, in my mind, doesn't have that. It has traffic arteries dissecting the cities, but at the same time, it's a place where locals live their lives, and from an outsider's perspective, it feels safe, just like most of Ukraine feels safe. And that's one of the benefits a homogeneous population has. I am the outsider here.
And I generally mean that. You can go into dodgy neighborhoods in Ukraine and feel perfectly safe as long as you act like a respectful human being and you don't stand out like a sore thumb. You're not going to have a bad time. In my mind, two of the safest countries in Europe are Ukraine and Belarus because they are such homogeneous societies.
Well, I'll be honest. I don't know where the fruit and veg is. This is one of the things when you're not needing to scope out a place before you turn the camera on. You think, well, actually, I'm going to find it with you guys. I certainly know where the chainsaws are and the hammers and the step ladders if you need them.
I think after a little research, it turns out you need to go elsewhere for your fruit and veg. There are little stores scattered around the city, but you're not going to find the fruit and veg here. I sometimes stop in Vinnytsia because it's a nice place to stop when you're heading up from the south of Ukraine and you don't want to get into Kyiv too late. It's a nice place to sort of spend the night, or going the opposite way.
I don't think Vinnytsians eat that much fruit and veg. I mean, maybe I'm wrong and there's an entirely different market devoted to the fruit and veg, but I'm going to do a few more corners before I...
Research is key when it comes to making these videos. I had been to this market once before and I'd sort of breezed through it, but at the time I had failed to notice the lack of fruit and veg. I popped in because I needed a pair of socks. Socks here are incredibly cheap. If you can't find a laundry and you need an extra pair of socks, you can buy socks here for about 20 hryvnias, which is under $1.
A little bit like Morocco in the fact that I am a little bit lost now. I know I came in from that direction, but I certainly didn't come in from this path.
Unlike the souks of Morocco, where the rich and poor will shop side by side, these marketplaces in Ukraine are generally frequented by those on lower incomes and maybe middle incomes, but certainly if you have money in Ukraine, they tend to avoid these sort of places, which is sad, I think, because these sort of old markets still have a lot to offer.
That literally was the first bit of bread we've seen. Seen one shop that sells about 20 apples, one shop that sells lots of bread, but in terms of food, oh, here we are, we've got live chickens. Hold on. Oh, so we have, this is the section where you can buy your fresh chicken from. Very fresh chickens, fresh eggs, fresh rabbits. Not the vegetarian's place, but oh my word, look at the size of this poor guy. That's a big guy. Hello. Big guy. Hello. Sometimes I've noticed, I think filming the caged animals is always problematic in most cities these days. The reason being, you probably get animal rights individuals filming them to end the trade when it comes to large chickens and rabbits. But in this case, it's just me showing you guys, trying not to have an opinion on it, as I think many people that have watched my videos know my opinion on it. But it's not my place right now to try and stop that. When I'm in London, I've regularly stood outside Canada Goose shops, preached my disdain for the fur trade, and I have complete disdain when it comes to fox hunting, and despite the fact that I grew up around fox hunting, I now have a complete adverse reaction to it, and I think it is wrong. But at the same time, until everyone is a vegetarian, you can't preach about the sort of selling of fresh produce, because if you eat chicken from a chicken shop, then why would you object from seeing a chicken being sold in a market? There's no reason for that. Only the vegan can object, and at the end of the day, the vegan doesn't have to buy it. The vegan can just try their best to convert people to their way, and that's all they can do, in my opinion. Well, that's it really. I don't think there's... I guess if you want your fresh fruits and veg, you've got to go elsewhere. That is the Vinnytsia Fruit and Veg Market. Probably one of my least interesting videos. So anyway, if you like this content, do check out my other videos. There's a lot of them. There's almost coming up to 400 videos now, so do get involved. The first 200 are terrible, I might add. And then in the second half, they start to get a little bit better, but as you can see, it's still not great. But I'll see you in the next video. Maybe from a different town, maybe from a different marketplace, who knows? Vinnytsia Central Market.